So the amazing part is, and I think I said this earlier, was that as a retail design architect, we often get our clients saying, oh, we have to have digital signage, or we have to have something digital, or we have to put a Twitter feed in our stores, or we have to do these things. And it's often coming very late in the process, and it's unfortunately an afterthought. So I'm a big proponent of the idea that if you're going to do this medium, you need to get it done up front. It's got to be part of the integrated thinking about the brand experience or the customer experience in stores, or out of stores, or out of home, or any place that you've got digital content. And what's interesting that I found about the show is the dynamic quality of the show is in sync with the dynamic quality of the industry growth. So that's kind of funny. As someone who's not connected to the details of the industry, you go from booth to booth and you're looking at what is this person really selling me different than what is this person really selling me. It's hard to tell sometimes those things, but there are a few standouts. The LED matrices that you see now on flexible panels are amazing. The quality of that is fantastic. A lot of this sort of LCD see-through glass pieces which have great applications for signage in stores that really enhance the idea that a sign just isn't a sign that sits on top of something anymore. It's really something that you interact with, and the whole thing of interaction. That's the big key, I think, that people are learning. It's not just about putting something in front of someone and thinking that they're going to understand it or even see it, for that matter. But then once you engage them in the process of making the sign or interacting or engaging in the experience of how that sign will restructure their shopping journey, then you have something amazing. So that, on the floor, those things were great. And you always see people walking up besides those booths, and they're all standing there, and they're all touching, and they're all sort of looking, and they're laughing, and that's fantastic, because that's what it's about. People are laughing and engaged. I wasn't particularly happy about the one that captured my face impression and told me I looked 67, though. It was not so good. It's in constant motion, and I think what happens often is the retail placemakers, the guys whose job it is to take brand ideologies and customer understandings and make places that engage shoppers, are way behind in knowing what's happening in the industry. So I sit in seminars and I am blown away by the things that Gesture Tech is doing, that some of these other companies about capturing gestures and the Microsoft Connect technologies. That's stuff that we sort of know because we maybe have a DS3 or an Xbox in the home, but in general, that's a real challenge, I think. For this industry to get out in front of the guys who are in the process of placemaking for retailers, to let them know it's available, and it's so important. I have the good fortune of trying to attend a lot of events, so whether it's Global Shop or other events that, companies like Explanation does, you have to be there, because to not be in the mix of the information flow, certainly with the speed that things are happening now, means you're always lagging behind. So you have to be continually exposed to that. Whether or not your brain can accommodate everything that comes at it in this one day is another question, but the shows are important because it gives a venue for people to sort of discuss the technology. That's fine. But what's more important is the shows are a venue to be able to discuss ideas. So it's not just that the technology exists, that the screen is 1080p by 84 inches wide. Well, that's impressive in its own right because of its size. But the value of the shows is the dialogue you generate between vendors, manufacturers, installers, ad people, the architects and designers. That's the key thing. When you get to the architects and designers who are upstairs in those sessions, they get lit up. And the dialogue that happens when they leave the show is key, because they begin to think not just about, oh, well, we need to have a sign. They begin to hopefully think about why we need to have a sign. What are the implications in terms of the customer experience in stores? How do we make places better? And so I did a keynote lunch, as I was saying, on Tuesday, and I said, the funny thing was when I was invited to do it, I said, Susan Danaher, who was the Digital Place-Based Advertising Association, she hooked me up with the thing, and she says, well, we're going to have you speak at the Digital Place-Based seminar or keynote. And I said, that's fantastic, place-based. And she said, no, it's not place-based, it's place-based. I said, what, you got to change your name or something. But I said, play. I thought, that's fantastic, I love play. Retail's all about play. And then I looked, I said, no, it's place-based. And I said, isn't it strange that when we think about the digital content that we put in spaces outside, that we call it place-based, but we don't often look at digital signage as a contributor to creating place, which is a very different thing than the accumulation of space to put stuff, or to hang things. And it's a hard thing to do, to try to convince anybody, whether they're designers or whether they're retailers or whether they're digital signage guys, that empty is okay. We have so much that's the biggest challenge. How do you capture customer attention? How do you capture that ability to differentiate between this sign and that sign, what that message is and that message, in a world where there's so much to see that it's almost impossible, and it's very, very tricky. I teach art and drawing and painting and design, and one of the things I try to tell my students is, let empty be okay. It's okay to be empty, It's okay to be quiet. You don't have to be talking all the time, or you don't have to be filling every area of a store up with something. In fact, those negative places, the negative spaces, are sometimes way more impactful than the stuff that you've put because you think you need to. Think of a store you go and you get 25 different kinds of peanut butter at the grocery store. Do you need 25? No. Would it be better if you had 3? Maybe. But how does the customer differentiate between 25 different brands or types, with salt or not salt, oil or not oil, organic or not, at the shelf level? That's a shelf level. But now think about the world of Times Square. Times Square, when you're in Times Square, you're definitely in a place. You know it. When you're on the side street, you know it. But the signage, or the graphic and signage ability to help reinforce the place of Times Square is crucial. Take away the signage from Times Square and you've got another intersection of streets. That content you have is what drives the placemaking. And often what we do is simply put signs up in empty spaces, but not really sure that how the content that's being pushed on those signs or those digital interfaces is contributing to the creation of place. Simple. My closet holds my shoes, but my kitchen holds the memory of every Thanksgiving I ever had. Those are two very different things. Our job as retail placemakers is to create experiences that are profoundly emotional. Not just about pushing me information about the price point of something versus, this over that. We all understand price point, and we can get it off our phone now, so we don't really need to see it in store. What we need to see is something about connecting to a larger idea about the brand and what it means to be part of the group who buys into that. And digital is a huge part of that. I tell you what, though, the people who I've seen who are doing that here, and this is my first exposure, it's intriguing. It's really intriguing. But here's the intriguing part about it, because I had someone ask me this question. After my session, someone came up and said, so I've got this airport and I have to put signs into the airport. What do you think I should do? And I said, well, I don't know. Where are the signs? Am I moving or am I stationary? Am I on a moving sidewalk? Is it on the ceiling or on a wall? What's beside it? Are there people beside it or other products beside it? Is it day or nighttime? And so I said, it has everything to do with context, not so much content. And I can get you to look at something that's got nothing to do with the content, but is simply because of its color relationship between one thing and another that I can draw your attention to that. And the other challenge that we have is thinking that content is king. And that we spend a lot of money creating really slick content when the power of content development isn't necessarily in the advertiser's world, it's in the customer's world, because they do it now. 72 million videos are uploaded to the internet every minute of every day. That's user-driven content. And so the ability for me to create signage opportunities because I have a device that can push data back and forth between me and it is incredibly intriguing for the customer who wants to craft their own shopping experience, because while we want to be part of a group, we ultimately also want to craft our own personal experience within that group. So we all want to be sheep to some degree, but we want to be sheep with something more stripes or not so many stripes, And I think that's potentially a huge, powerful push in this whole world, that customers can create it. They're involved in the making of place, which is way more profound than simply sitting back and being a passive observer of being in a place. This first year I've been here at Digital Signage Expo, and it has been an amazing experience. I am definitely coming back in 2014.